Don't you feel silly? Don't you feel stupid? Don't you feel a little ashamed?
You know, I keep thinking the game can't get much worse, but it seems like every time I say that, Gaijin finds the way to prove me wrong. And in this case, it's with the addition of drones. To me, this mechanic seems totally tone deaf. There are two types of drone, scout drones and strike drones. And I'll talk about each one individually, but before we do that, I kinda wanna rant for a bit. Obviously, I don't speak for everybody, but I think a decent number of people would agree tank players want to fight more tanks, not more air vehicles. Having to deal with helicopters and cast jets is already frustrating as it is, because unless you spawn an anti-air vehicle, there is really no way to counter them. A lot of tanks don't even have a pintle MG. You know, I enjoy playing tanks because there's some back and forth to the gameplay, you know? But if I'm fighting a K-52 in my tank, there's really nothing that I can do. I can try and hide, but that's about it. And with MiG-27s, hiding isn't even an option, because they can just go to the top of the map, dive down, and hit any vehicle that's hiding. Playing SPAA can be satisfying, but only because I know that if I kill a plane, I'm keeping someone from dunking on my team. The actual gameplay isn't very interesting, and it's more or less the same thing when you're actually playing jets themselves. You don't really have to worry about armor or anything like that. You know, where should I shoot this thing? It's literally just point and click. Tank matches just devolve into planes bombing people, and there's really nothing that you can do about it, like especially if you're not in the range to have radar SPAA. Now onto the types of UAVs they're adding. Light tanks from rank 6 to 7 are getting a scout UAV, and this is basically like the scout planes that you get in naval. It's a one-time consumable, and you can replenish it at a cap. And basically what it allows you to do is fly over a battlefield indefinitely and scout targets. And you know, I think the issue with that is that scouting is already too easy as it is. Like, scouting is something that as a light tank you can do completely behind cover. The cooldown on it is not very long at all, and it makes spawning CAS pretty much trivial. Like when I was making my video on CAS, I think it had the Ultra Kill OST on it, I was spawning the Bradley, and getting maybe 1 kill, 1 assist, and I could spawn in a fully loaded Skyhawk with bullpups. It's just ridiculous. And I think that allowing light tanks to basically just fly over a battlefield and scout everything is going to encourage the twitch shooting nature of top tier even more. And many tanks at top tier rely on flanking and remaining undetected to do well. You know, you could spawn in a light tank and you can go and try and flank to get a few kills, but if someone scouts you with a drone at the start of the match, you really have nothing you can do. Because think of battle game modes, right, where there's 2 capture zones, 1 friendly and 1 hostile. A light tank could just sit in the friendly zone and keep spawning these recon UAVs, and just keep the enemy team spotted pretty much continuously. And strike drones are also a terrible idea. I bet that since their payloads and capabilities are far less than what CAS planes already have, they're probably going to be even easier to spawn. And this is going to encourage their use as a tool for revenge and not necessarily as a tool for clearing a cap or something like that. So imagine you kill someone at the start of the match, and maybe they manage to hit somebody and get an assist, and they can just spawn in a predator with Hellfires and kill you immediately. That just doesn't seem very fun to me. Depending on what model of Hellfire it receives, it could end up outranging SPAA, and it could clear the way for stronger CAS platforms. Even with basic missiles, drones could still outrange SPAA cannons, meaning that if you want to take out that drone, you would have to waste an ADATS missile or a Roland on it. And this applies to all types of drone, not just strike drones. This makes attrition significantly worse for SPAA. Not only are you going to run out of ammo sooner, but you're going to have your attention divided among all these different planes and UAVs. I mean, even now I see SPAA being overwhelmed by multiple jets. I can't imagine how bad it'll be if half the enemy team can spawn a Hellfire drone for basically doing nothing. And that's not even mentioning that some nations only have IR SAMs, like Israel and Japan. They've only got Stingers. And not only do they barely work, but you can't even lock helicopters beyond like 2 kilometers. So I imagine that a small drone with like a 200 horsepower engine is going to be basically the same. And Gaijin is being pretty transparent about the fact that they really didn't consider the gameplay aspects at all when thinking about adding drones. Like someone asked, who is asking for these things to be added? And the reply was, drones are a part of the modern battlefield, or something to that effect. So yet again, they're not considering how this thing is going to affect gameplay. All they care about is adding another feature because it exists in reality, even though it might be terrible for the game itself. Like, with as many balancing issues there are in ground battles, the last thing that's needed is an entirely new class of aerial vehicle. It's just to placate all the people that treat ground RB as their stomping ground for aircraft. Like, cast gameplay might be satisfying to you as a cast player, but to me as a cast target, what happens is, I hear a jet fly over, 10 seconds later I get bombed or rocketed, and then that's it. You know, I try to hide, I try to smoke, but it doesn't do anything. And then maybe I can spawn in an SPAA and kill you, but at that point it feels cheap to you because you think you got revenge killed, and it's cheap to me because I don't really want to play SPAA at that moment. I enjoy playing SPAA a lot. I don't want to play it all the time, just in case someone might spawn CAS. And I know some people are going to complain that I'm complaining about a feature that hasn't even been added yet, but you don't need to be a genius to see where this is going, you know? Like any feature with this much potency, it's either going to be really busted, or it's going to be so useless that no one uses it. But yeah, I think I've ranted for long enough that you guys get my point. As always, if you have a suggestion for a vehicle you want me to play, leave it in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.